Hey there team, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to my review of Crime Scene Cleaner. Yes, that's correct, a review. I haven't really done many of these in recent times. I mostly, these days, do overviews, which are just 2-hour, kind of first looky, surface level production line videos. I'm getting sick of doing that. I'm getting sick of early access, to be honest. So this may well herald returning to putting out a couple of reviews a week, that sort of thing, under my model. Let me know if that's what you're into. I don't want to lead too hard with this. But yes, straight out of the gate, I really like this game. Worth your time, worth your money? Yes. It is probably worth mentioning, I only have one objective standard when I review games, and it's that when I give a game $5 Australian, I expect that it gives me 1 hour of good solid gameplay fun. It's a low bar, it's intentionally low. It's not for everyone, but it's definitely for me. So this game's going for roughly $30 Australian, so we'll call it 6 hours, which I've put into it. I've really enjoyed it. I want to play some more, and there is still more game to go. Now, if you're a little bit skeptical, perhaps, about simulator type games, I'm with you there, brother. In fact, it's kind of a bit of a Swiss cheese scenario that I even bought this game. I probably could have got it in pre-release, but I kind of triaged it and nothinged it. It's coming out of Playway. Now, there's nothing wrong with Playway. They've become a very large indie, simulator-heavy publishing brand, but that's just it. They're a bit shovelware, right? Hit and miss. I'd say even 50-50. Sometimes they've got some blinder games, like this one, but many times they've got some pretty weak stuff too. So I saw yet another simulator type game coming out of them and thought, whatever, and skipped on it. Jump forward to this weekend. I noticed it's getting overwhelmingly positive reviews. Very unusual. I've been sick for a few days, was looking for something to play, picked it up, and lost myself in it. This is what I would say to about as close a perfect $30 indie game. Again, you're going to have to use your currency conversion, but this sits right on that price point, generally under Australian pricing. You've got $30, $60, and $90 is kind of where indie AA and AAA sit, the massage around the sides. So for what this is offering and what it is and the quality and all that, this is wonderful. And I wouldn't even hesitate. If you feel that that's in your price bracket and you like picking up indie games and checking that sort of stuff out, give this a go. That's the huge takeaway, especially if you're a bit burnt out on simulator games and you turn your nose up on them. I'm giving this one the rubber stamp. This is the exception. So look, there's the high praise at the front. Now, what is this game? There's a bit more going on than you might realize. Well, just a bit more. You could probably sort of work it back to front. What's probably missing with a lot of simulator games, I think, is twofold. One, a lot of them that miss the mark are more interested in simulating whatever it is, Wall Painting Simulator 2024. They're more worried about one-to-one trying to simulate all the moving parts, and they never really stop to think about whether it's fun. And it should be fun first. You allow for suspension of disbelief in video games, run around shooting bloody elves and stuff like that, right? It doesn't have to be realistic per se, as long as it's fun. So this game gets that. It's one of the rare simulator games that stands apart by it doesn't overreach too far. There's not too many mechanics. There are enough to keep you engaged and you can unlock some more stuff as you go along. But it doesn't get fiddly in throwaway crappy mini games. There are a couple that aren't fantastic. There's like a hacking mini game for opening doors and safes, but it's very rare, maybe once a mission. And it's not terrible, it's just not great. But my point is, you're asking me to look for negatives, there's one. The sort of mopping and cleaning loop of this game is really fun, dare I say cathartic. So one, that it gets that right where most sim games get it wrong. Two, it's doing something that I've been kind of predicting would happen, or hoping, I suppose, wishfully thinking. And it's that it's put a bit of a narrative into it. Even, the big dogs in this space like Power Wash Simulator, it's just job to job to job. There's no real overarching narrative. Now look, this isn't Academy Award winning super duper stuff, but I don't actually think that's a bad thing. I kind of feel, and not to lose the thread too much, we're being gaslit into thinking that Hollywood has some place in gaming. I kind of despise the fact that, we're putting so much money into high fidelity bloody eyelashes and all this sort of crap and paying voice actors to shoot their shot and try and win their Academy Award. I would rather all that stuff was secondary after a core fun game. And that's what's going on here. There is an overarching story. It's kind of a bit of a literally me thing. The voice acting is shonky, basically the main character just spurting out dad jokes and all that, but it's never really jarring. It's eye-rolling in a grin along with it kind of way. So I would say they're the two sort of tent poles that make this work. One, it understands the mission statement that a game should be a game first. And two, it actually has, uniquely in this space, a narrative, such as it is, tying it all together. And it creates investment. It creates enough investment for a gamer. And I really hope, and seeing how this has been well received, I'm sure I'm not the only one, I really hope this paves the way as the AAA industry is busy shooting itself in the foot, crashing and burning. Maybe this is what we get. Janky indie to AA games with kind of okay stories, but enough to keep you invested in what is already a fun moment-to-moment loop. So look, sorry, I know I'm front-loading with some broad concept ideas of what makes this work. Let's talk about the loop. Effectively, you're just this dude that's fallen in to crime scene cleaning, not in like a official government police sort of thing. You're working for the mob. So what starts off as just sort of odd jobs, you get their attention and then essentially you're indentured to them. Now, this ties together because your main character is a widower, you've got a daughter in a medical facility, and you've got all these bills to pay that you can't afford because you're a janitor on janitor's salary. So like the decision is an easy one, not that it's even presented to you, but the story makes sense. It is kind of evergreen in its appeal. Single dad struggling, trying to save his daughter, pay the medical bills. Sure. Right, clean up these crime scenes. On a level-to-level meta layer, I suppose, you'll go out, you'll do your mission, you'll come home to your little apartment, check your emails, see if you've got any updates from your daughter, that sort of thing. You've got your little dog, Dexter, that you give a pat as well and tell him he's a good boy. And, there's some hints of environmental storytelling around your apartment, hospital bills and that sort of stuff. Getting rejected for loans because you're a janitor. Your daughter saying that where she is in the facility, she's getting picked on by other kids because they're laughing at her because her dad's a janitor. And to be honest, I feel like this probably will resonate with a lot of dudes. But anyway, I don't want to give it all away. But yeah, okay, it's low-hanging fruit. It's pretty basic stuff, but that's fine. I don't think many gamers want more than that. Before I lose it as well, environmental storytelling, something that this reminds me of is Ready or Not, if you've ever played that. Very different genre, but I think you might be able to join the threads if you know that game. Ready or Not's really big on environmental storytelling, and there's people that do lore deep dives on the Dark Soul level. There's all sorts of hidden clues. Now, this isn't quite as deep, obviously, it's not as high production, but it's doing the same sort of thing. Each crime scene has a story, has a bit of a background. A lot of them have secret areas as well. Hidden attics and basements, maybe more nefarious stuff going on. I don't want to spoil it. But there are these little threads. And it's interesting because things like Gone Home, these voyeuristic games that sort of made their debut 10 years ago and were kind of the tip of the spear for all this cozy bullshit gameplay adjacent stuff, where you go through people's personal lives and that, and it's just sort of nosy. None of that really appealed to me. I really disliked those games. And yet, the way that it does it here, having a more investigative loop to it, like what happened. It's less about who was this person and knowing their dirty hidden secrets, and more about trying to figure out what happened in this scene and how'd this play out and what's the background. And some of it's really quite interesting. You've got some laughs in there, some, like I said, some nefarious stuff. There's some melancholy in there because this game doesn't really pull some punches. It deals with, dare I say, some sensitive stuff. Trigger warning if you're made out of fucking snowflakes. But yeah, there's something kind of tragic when witnesses see something and then, they get killed. And there are these sort of like little vignette cutscenes at the beginning of some of the major missions and all that. And, it's a bit miserable, to be honest, and your dude reflects on that. In between dad jokes and, little commentary on stuff as he cleans along, he's not a chatty Cathy. Like, the voice acting's bad, I suppose is the correct term for it, but I don't actually personally think that's a bad thing. I kind of hate voice actors. I hate that we give actors any sort of cachet beyond the fact that your job is to lie effectively for my entertainment. I don't care what you think outside of that. They're tools in a toolbox as far as I'm concerned. So nothing strictly against the voice actor here, but when I hear someone that's just sort of delivering the lines okay, that's fine by me. In fact, it's probably more of an indicator that they're outside of the system. But yeah, in between, little quips and this and that, there are melancholy, kind of sad moments reflecting on, there's introspection. The old mate's like, this could be me in this body bag, if I cross the boss, or such a shame that this poor chick, all she did was she's in the wrong place at the wrong time. And now I'm throwing her ragdoll out of a 3-story building and she's bouncing off fences, which is kind of, there's a morbid hilarity to it. In fact, the whole thing does have that morbid undertone, but it's not playing it for cheap Disney laughs or any of that sort of, even streamer bait or anything like that. Like, it plays it very straight, dare I say earnestly, which is something that's missing more and more these days. I haven't really talked in a granular nature on the core loop itself, but suffice to say, it's solid. Everything works the way you're supposed to. I haven't really played many cleaning games. They don't really appeal to me. Like Viscera Cleanup Crew, I think is kind of a bit of a, indie touchstone most people would have played. But generally speaking, you've got sort of X-ray glow-in-the-dark sense that you can level up with perks and all that. You've got a mop, sponges, you fill up your bucket of water and carry that around with you and squeege out your mop when it gets too bloody. You've got different densities of blood, so like you potentially would want to use a sponge when things are a little bit harder, like on carpets and stuff like that. So there is some nuance to the moving parts, but it's not overwhelming. It's enough to add variety to what is essentially a very cathartic loop. The soundtrack's not generic, it's just got some little poppy little tracks that you can pick up throughout the levels as collectibles through cassettes, which is very cute, and you can manage your playlists. I suppose you could just listen to your own Spotify, but the music is kind of catchy in its own varied, eclectic kind of way. But yeah, you essentially, you clean up with your sponge and your broom into play, or your mop, sorry. You have like a pressure washer, which I didn't get a lot of value out of. Apparently that's supposed to be better on tougher stuff, but I didn't level it up a whole lot either. So there's that part. You also pick up rubbish, you rearrange things and put them back the way that they're supposed to be, and there's all very helpful blueprints to see that. And you bundle the bodies up and throw them in your back of your ute. There's like a detergent system where you can mix that in with the water in your bucket to try and get more value, and that's all very limited. And then you'll knock your bucket over and spill bloody water everywhere, and then you'll forget to wash your mop and start spooging blood all over the place, and that can turn into a bit of a Benny Hill calamity of errors. But again, it's fun. It's fun more than frustrating. You'll sit there and laugh to yourself and go, God, I'm an idiot. I just kicked over my bucket of detergent and now there's blood everywhere. But yeah, look, all in all, and I think I've covered everything I want to cover here, I think it's really good and I highly recommend it, especially to those who are standoffish about these sort of games, but uber especially if you are part of that growing movement, let's say, that is becoming disillusioned with games and the state of a lot of mainstream gaming. To me, what is here, for me personally, is something I would love to see the gaming industry go in the direction of. I would love if AAAs could scale back. Maybe they do collapse and there's an apocalypse of AAA companies and they have to rebuild. And maybe smaller bites of more indie type projects with a less prominent story, but still enough where you can pat your dog and save money to save your sick daughter, and and enough of that keeps you going, what's at the next crime scene? I'm curious what the scenario is when I do that first walkthrough and pick up all the little bits of evidence and figure out what happened here and put it all together. The whole package is a breath of fresh air, and it is the step forward that this sort of space needs. And I really hope it paves the way for many more to come. Anyway, team, look, we'll wrap it up there. Let me know your thoughts around the review thing. The plan at the moment is probably is to just review a game every couple of days and stick to the $5 to $1 exchange. It's not for everyone. Some people think it's too high, some people think it's too low, but that probably indicates that it's a Goldilocks thing. I do know there's a lot of people that sit in my bracket as a bit of an older gamer that value their time kind of more than their money, right? And if I tell them it's a cool game and they'll get X hours out of it for paying that amount, a lot of people will just buy it on my recommendation. So yeah, always happy to hear people's thoughts. Otherwise, team, we might just leave it there for the time being and I'll catch you guys on the next one.